Good afternoon, everyone. You are watching RogersTV, and this is the VIU Media Studies Live Student Spotlight 2024. I am your host, Patrick Coles-Owen, and I want to welcome you all to this incredible showcase of talent and creativity. As we embark on this exciting journey tonight, you'll have the opportunity to see various posters, magazines, writings, documentaries, short films, and even a few games. These are the results of months of dedication, passion, and hundreds of hours of hard work. We will be interviewing an amazing group of guest speakers who will provide insights into their work, the creative process, and the importance of these projects. Now, this event could not have been possible without the outstanding efforts of Robin Davies Digital 281, Chris, Todd, Staz, Althea, Nick, and the rest of our amazing volunteers. Now, without further fanfare, let's get into it and dive into this wonderful world of creativity and innovation here at the heart of Vancouver Island University. Our first project is from McLean, representing Intro 101 with his website, Goon Squad. So thanks for coming down here, McLean. And I just want to ask you, what do you have to show today?
The piece that I'm going to showcase for you today is a website that I built for my class this semester. The webpage is all about Jennifer Egan's A Visit from the Goon Squad. This book is great, by the way. I highly recommend checking it out. The assignment was to create a website to reflect certain things in the book. I had a lot of fun putting this together.
Okay, so on that, building it, how did you build the website?
Okay, so now that you have a bit of background about this piece, now I am going to quickly discuss the technology that I used to put this together. Okay, so now that you have a bit of background about this piece, now I am going to quickly discuss the technology that I used to put this together. I didn't use any sort of website builder like WordPress or Wix. I used HTML and CSS. I won't go too deep into these languages, because we'll be here all day long. But what I will say is these are essentially the building blocks of the web. Every single website uses HTML and CSS in some way. People always say that coding is hard, but once you learn how to write code, it's really easy to build your own projects.
So going off the easiness of building this project, what was the easiest part of the project itself?
The easiest part of this project was laying everything out both in the design and in my code. I love thinking in terms of layout, figuring out where everything should be. Again, the design document has a lot of it done, but very rarely I will deviate away from my layout if I think something else might work better, or if it's unachievable.
Perfect. Well, thank you for coming down here, McLean. I really loved your website. And so our next guest today is going to be Katrina with Lumina, Journey Through the Underworld from Digital Media 366. Perfect. Thank you. That was an awesome demo video.
Yeah,
so,
thank you.
So going into this project, what was the biggest hurdle to actually designing the game?
The code was definitely the biggest one, which was done by Jay McDonald, who will be up here shortly. There was not many tutorials for the code, and trying to figure that out was very, very tough.
So you kind of had to learn, like, kind of on the fly on how to design the game itself.
Yeah, on the fly, and certain like chat rooms, they were the best. Yeah.
Fair enough. Like, I mean, there must be like years and years of like just info somewhere lurking on the internet.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of the tutorials were outdated, so that's what I think a big problem was. Just that if you like try to type in the code that they used, it just didn't work because the thing wasn't updated for the updated game maker that we used.
Because I know, at least from my experience, that Flash games have kind of fallen by the wayside. They're not really supported anymore.
Nope.
So it was just hard to actually find the resources to build this.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest part. Yeah.
Fair enough. And so what was the inspiration for the game itself?
Yeah.
And what kind of themes does it delve into?
So the inspiration came from Anna, our teammate who's not here today. This was her idea. It was more just a platformer game like Mario, just go through the underworld. But as we changed it to a vertical kind of platform, we decided to go from hell kind of heaven because it started in the other world. So we decided just to, going up to heaven would be probably the best way to do it. And the themes are, we mixed a bunch of the kind of religious and Greek mythology kind of things, like you see Hades and you see like hell and heaven and just a lot
just
of
kind of like mixing all these kind of like these mythologies into like a cool cohesive story.
Just trying our best to do that. Yeah.
Fair enough. So thanks for coming in here today,
Thank
Kat.
you.
I love the game,
Thank you very
and
much.
like you must have spent so much time putting this all together.
Yeah.
And so our next video is going to be a short film from Kiki. I from Digi281. Awesome, and thank you, Kiki, for your wonderful short film. I know you put a lot of work into that one. And so for our next guest, we've got Benny down here from Digital Media 330, and I believe you got a poster for us for a project called Mole.
Yeah, Mole. Mole is inspired from the animal mole, actually. Some people ask why, but Mole has related to my topic here.
Of like the social anxiety, kind of like the burrowing down and that kind of stuff?
It's actually a very smart animal, always very isolated, but very smart at finding food and everything.
Awesome. So I was reading through your bio earlier, and I believe you came to us as a chaplain from hospitals.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, how does your time as a chaplain kind of inform the project that you have for us today?
Yeah, it's a great question because it influenced the way I find, trying to find a problem to solve as a designer and as a person in media. And I find it's really hard for people who have social anxiety as I listen to people, and I want to help people to go and experience the confidence again, and I want to target specifically for grocery shopping. So that's my topic here.
Fair enough, because I know a couple of years ago during the pandemic, there was like an effort to really improve the experience of people who are neurodivergent. And so I know that the project that you're working on right now, you really want to focus in on that and like help people who are neurodivergent kind of be able to leave their comfort zone and be able to actually go out and do grocery shopping or whatever. So how does the app itself kind of give those people the assistance that they need?
So basically, as I kind of like going through all the issues in grocery shopping, you know, during like pandemic, we had a panic on finding toilet papers and stuff. So we want to solve those problems on finding something you need so you don't panic when you go to the grocery store.
So you kind of know exactly what you're walking into, basically.
And basically, before you go to the store, you check already how crowded the store is. You can check hourly or daily. You can see what store around you are busy, and you compare it in real time.
And the way that you kind of like get that info is, I'm assuming, by pulling like location data from their phones, more or less?
Yeah, basically we are trying to just use basically whatever is beneficial for the users. We don't want to go into like data or anything, but
of course.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so like I'm assuming that you've taken a look at like how to like distribute the app. Are you currently looking at kind of like?
We actually have a prototype right now.
Oh, really?
And yeah, also in the phase of sending it to the audience, and they test it and then send it back to me, redesign it again, and so on.
Oh my God, that's amazing. So thank you for coming down here. Our next project is going to be Liam Pendergast. He's the production manager on a game called Room of Rage, and we're just going to watch a demo video of that. Awesome. And so that looks like an amazing game. I'm assuming you put like an awesome amount of effort into making that happen. I know the coding was all done by Austin.
Yep.
But I just want to explore like what your role was on the project as the production manager. What was your actual role on facilitating this and getting it to the state where it is now?
Well, the whole project was a complete group effort, and so as a project manager, my job was kind of make sure we're all staying on task, we're all working together, communicating to each other, talking to each other, sending the files. So my job was just kind of managing all that, making sure we had all the details we needed to keep going forward.
Awesome, because I've been involved on a couple of projects, And I mean, as you know, like trying to get people to work together on like a project is like, you know, herding cats.
Yeah.
But like, what was your main strategy on how to keep people focused and actually finishing the project? Not kind of exploring the weeds,
Yeah.
but kind of finishing and focusing in on finishing the product.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I just leaned in a positivity sense, and as a group, we all kind of were great with each other. We were all happy to just do what needed to be done, and just be happy doing it, because, you know, no one wants to work on something that someone isn't having fun with. So we just tried to have fun with it the whole time.
Awesome. And so as the production manager, I'm assuming that you've kind of taken a look at what you want to do for like distribution. I'm just wondering, like, if you had like unlimited resources, say someone comes in out of the clouds and drops $20 million on your lap, where do you want to take this game?
Oh boy, you know, I think this game, the game kind of sells itself in that it's a game of rage, and whether you're a first-time player or a long-time player, you're going to want to keep doing better from what you did last time, and you're going to be just getting upset with yourself no matter what. So, you know, if we had an unlimited budget, you know, we could make it look pretty, we could make it have some good advertising, get some good marketing out there. But at the core, you know, the game is what it is, and it's a game of rage.
Fair enough. So thanks for coming down here to show us the game.
Yeah.
Our next project is going to be a short film from Alonzo, Cheyenne, Toddson, Zatang, and Chris called The Chase. Awesome. And so that was The Chase from Digital Media 281. And now I'm down here with Mike and Ben to talk about their project, The Right Table Wrong Idioculture. Am I again saying that correctly? Perfect. Thank you. And so it's, as I understand it, like a look into like the culture of tabletop role-playing games.
Yep.
Awesome. And I just got to say, I'm happy I'm not the only one that chose, like, you know, jeans, dark t-shirt and jacket. But I just got to ask, so you guys have put 11 months into this project, and that is a long time for a final project. Like, I've been doing this for a long time, and 11 months is crazy. So what was the most challenging aspect of putting this project together?
Oh, I think finding participants was probably like the biggest thing. We had a really narrow set of requirements for this because we wanted to make sure that we had very experienced participants. Particularly, we were looking for dungeon masters who had nearly a decade of experience.
And those aren't really that easy to find. Like, I've delved into like a D&D a few times, and I mean, there's not, like, Nanaimo's a decent sized town, but I mean, it's not like there's like hundreds of them lying around for DMs or anything.
No.
And so, like, on a project like this, where you had to go get approval and like play around with it for as long as he did, I'm just wondering, for something so idiosyncratic as D&D, what was the process like getting approval to do this project?
Yeah, it was a bit of a challenge, right? Because you go to the research ethics board, and that's not necessarily something that they've dealt with before or seen before, and so they're not necessarily prepared to deal with that kind of research. And so there was a bit of a challenge, a unique experience to go through that process of kind of having to check all their boxes. But overall, it was really worthwhile to do that. But yeah, it's kind of a bit luck of the draw in terms of who you get and what they understand, and you're trying to like.
It's like trying to, like, I don't know, like teach ants how to code more or less, basically.
Absolutely.
But so during the course of this research, 11 months, that I still can't get over. That's a long time you guys worked on this project. So how has tabletop gaming culture kind of changed in the last 10, 15 years with podcasting and videos and YouTube? Like, how has it morphed from what it used to be to more or less what it is now?
Well, there's a couple of things going on, and in particularly what we found. So the first thing that we found is that it's way easier to get into it now because people don't have to go through a 250 plus page book just to learn the rules. Just being able to watch these kinds of games on mediums like YouTube allows the player or potential players to really whittle that down to the sort of very specific things that you need to know for the character you're playing. And then on top of that, it really, we had a whole framework kind of that came into like how things were getting better. And part of that was the actual like ritual of playing. And not a lot of people, well, unless you're really into the game, most people don't necessarily understand just how like ritualistic it is in that regard. Just like
it's almost like a religious experience.
It's like going to church. Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, we've seen groups that like will pray to billionaires before the game starts, like with chanting. It's crazy how detailed these things, and that's where the term like idioculture comes from in terms of like.
Is that it's just so kind of, I don't want to say minuscule, just like so idiosyncratic.
Yeah.
That it's not like part of the mainstream, but it's getting there. Like, where do you see this going like the next 10, 15 years? Do you think it's gonna like kind of like continue going more mainstream, or do you think it's gonna like I don't know, like what's the word, kind of backslide into what it was previously? I know that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
But
I think we've seen this kind of rise in general acceptance. Obviously, like through the 80s, you had things like the Satanic Panic, right? Where it was really kind of persecuted, and it was seen as like. But now, as kind of nerd culture has kind of gone mainstream, I don't think that we'll see a backslide in any way. If anything, I think we'll see it become more popular. And I think things like Critical Role have just like really helped explode that and bring it to mainstream. And now you have all of these big time celebrities who are all like Vin Diesel and like
Joe Manganiello.
all these people who are big names
and they're playing D&D.
Playing D&D, and so I think it's just becoming a more normal thing that people do, and I think people see the value in it as an experience of coming together socially and as an avenue to tell good stories together and just have a good time and have that ritualistic experience with friends.
Awesome. Thanks guys for coming down here, and I can't thank you enough for putting in the effort. This project is one of the like cooler ones I've seen in a long time, just based on how idiosyncratic it is. But thank you for coming down here. So our next project that we're going to be taking a look at is going to be Mickey Barkley with Artifacts of Amaranth. Awesome. That looks so retro. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
So with this project, so was there like a particular art style that you were trying to emulate, or did it just kind of kind of coalesce the way that it did?
Partially inspired a little bit by classic Zelda games. Partially, I am an artist myself, so all of the sprites were done by me. So mimicking my own art style in just a pixelated way.
Oh, that's cool. And so, like before working on this project, did you have any experience like making games, or did you just want to kind of dive right into it?
Not developing for sure. Mostly just dived in. But I have a big passion for games in general, so it was really fun to get that experience.
Awesome. Like, how long have you wanted to get into game design?
Probably since high school, at least, like early high school. Ever since I got into art. Specifically when the game Undertale came out, actually, it was definitely what inspired me to want to make games to begin with, and that was probably back in 2015.
So cool. And so, like, this project here, I know I asked the last video game, it's the same thing, but like, where do you want to take this project? I'm assuming that you don't want to just leave it by the wayside. I'm assuming that you want to follow it further. What's the next step for this video game?
Yeah, it would definitely depend on what the rest of my group would want to do too, I guess. But personally, I would love to take it further. Like, what we made was just felt more like a prototype of sorts.
Like a proof of concept?
Exactly, yeah. I have a lot of story and character ideas in my brain that I would just love to get out there and into a finished game.
Like, so going on that, just bouncing off of that, I guess, like, what would be like the dream game that you make?
My original idea for the game actually was very similar with the artifacts, but there was a lot more artifacts that you would have to collect to save the village from destruction. And the name, like Amaranth, actually is a flower, and its meaning is immortality. So it was kind of an ironic name of sorts, where the town is in destruction, rather than living up to its actual name.
That's such a cool concept. So thanks for coming down here. I really want to see how this ends up, because it's a really cool looking game. So our next project is going to be just a short video from Digital Media 281. And thanks for that video from Digi281. So my next guest down here is going to be Jay, and we're going to be talking about the impacts of fan fiction when it comes to writing. And this is from both Media 495 and you said 490?
Yes.
So this is a very large project that you've undertaken here.
Yes, yes.
So how long have you spent on this project?
So I've spent about 11 months total working on the project.
Another 11-month project?
Yes. And then so the first portion of the research was done in a 4-month period last summer. And then I've worked the last about, I would say, 8 months doing the in-depth interviews for the project.
Awesome. And we had a brief conversation before you came on down in the green room, and I just wanted to ask you again, how long have you been interested in writing fan fiction?
So I, like a lot of my participants in my study, I got introduced to fan fiction when I was about 11 or 12, and I actually chose our media studies program because I wanted to do this research.
Because you wanted to actually delve into it, because you gotta admit, there's not that much research into fan fiction, just as there's not into D&D, like our last couple of guests there. But so I just want to ask, what is the broad appeal of fan fiction?
So if you look on the screen here, I did ask my participants about that a bit more, and a lot of them had said there's comfort and community. You get to keep experiencing these different adventures with the same characters. You get to just feel safe. You get to hear a lot of different voices that you don't normally hear in traditional media. And it's just a very tailored experience to you personally.
Because it's more or less taking an IP that already exists, like it's already a narrative that already exists, and kind of continuing it on in your own words and your own vision, and taking it where you can go. And just want to like ask, like, so, like, what was your experience like working on this project? Because it's, again, 11-month project, a lot of work has gone into it, and like, how many responses did you get out of this project? How many respondents did you get?
So I got around 30 responses, and out of those 30, 6 were able to actually have the same schedule lineup
And that's
that
always
we
like
needed.
the hardest part, right?
Yes, but I think like there was a lot of learning curves I had to go through. I had to learn how to completely use the research software. I had to learn how to develop every stage of it and how to then bring those ideas all together.
And so, like, how long of the research of that, like 11 months, how much time of that was actually just kind of planning out the research and like kind of forming it before you went into the field and actually did it? How much effort did you put into actually just setting it up in the first place?
So like I had mentioned, I had gone into this program wanting to do this research, so I already had an idea. So I've kind of spent the last 3 years building up, talking to the different professors, figuring out what I wanted to focus on. But outside of that, I would say when it came down to doing the interviews, that was probably the longest process. That took almost 6 months of just
kind of planning everything out.
Yes, yes.
Oh, it sounds like you put in a lot of effort on this one.
Yes.
I'd love to see more of this, but that's all the time we really have for now, at least. Thanks, Jay, for coming down here. And so our next video that we're going to watch is going to be from Ethan Jewell from 281, Digital Media 281.
It's been about 5 years or so now since I've gotten into flying drones and using them for film. There's a sense of freedom when you can just take off and see the world around you at a higher level. It really allows you to take a location and get creative with it from a whole new perspective. I enjoy flying in the games I play as well, usually. I've always had an interest in aircraft, whether they're fictional or not. Everybody has a hobby they enjoy doing. I like to take the flying I do in the games and apply them to my drone piloting. I admit I've made a few mistakes when I fly, but
Awesome. Thank you, Ethan, for that awesome video. And now we're here with Fran and Whit for the magazine Bright. And that is from Media 302, is that right? Awesome. So what was the experience in finding like the important but not kind of downer stories? Because I've taken a look at the project and you guys are trying to like tread that line of important but not apocalyptic. So how hard was it finding those stories?
I think it was finding stuff that we were passionate about. So I talked a lot about different theater activities out there, right? So I talked about one thing that was talking about Kismet, which is an acting academy in Nanaimo, reopening, which is how I got my start.
Right.
And then I talked about a new season for Western Edge. So for me, it was all about things that I'm passionate about, which I was like, these are really cool things happening in the community. And then we had like Fran's projects, which you can.
Yeah, so I interviewed the Muslim Women's Club as they were starting up their protests for solidarity with Palestine. And then I talked with some of the psych students at VIU who were doing a free hug campaign. And so there is a really cool opportunity right now in the community to engage with people who want to tell good stories. I mean, it's always been said, when it bleeds, it leads. But I think we're all kind of a little tired.
We're kind of done with it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah,
It's a little bit too much now.
Exactly. And so I think there's kind of this undercurrent that's starting of people wanting to tell good stories and wanting to experience good stories.
And to not get like caught in those, not to cut you off or anything, but not get caught in those like quagmire algorithms where they're just constantly going over the same horrible stuff.
Yeah, getting rid of the doom scrolling.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, is what we wanted to keep people away from doom scrolling, because that's so popular now, and that's where Bright comes into play.
Because God knows I've doom scrolled at like 3 a.m. I'm sure we all have. But like, I know this project is bigger than just you two, and I just want to ask, like, how was it working with everyone else in your class? And then after all of that comes in, because I see the website looks awesome. Like, it looks like you guys have put a whole lot of effort into that. How was it working with the rest of the class and then producing this?
Yeah, so the class was set out as we're building this new magazine that hasn't happened yet. And so there's a lot of work that's gone in to build the ground layer, this first issue. So we all got to be journalists in this first issue, but going forward, there's room to grow into roles of editorial and into social media and stuff like that. As the magazine expands, our roles will expand. But right now we all got to work together in the same role, which was really cool, because then we had that connection.
So you kind of have like that depth, or at least that same kind of experience going into something, because at least I've been involved with projects where people come in from like all different backgrounds, and then it goes awry. But having like the same base knowledge and the same base feelings about the project kind of keeps it cohesive. And so like on that, are you guys looking for people, or are you still just kind of keeping it more amongst yourselves?
I know for like future classes, obviously we want more and more people involved, because it's supposed to kind of fill the gap between what the NAV does and what Portal does.
Right,
like it's a
because
nice
there's
happy
there's a chasm between those two magazines.
Exactly, and we talked a lot about having like a podcast element on the website, which would be really cool, because I know
you could literally just go up to the library and use the suite that they have. I mean, I was thinking about starting a podcast myself, because why not? It's there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so so what did you really want to take from this project? Like what's the end goal? Like to fill that space between the NAV and between Portal, or do you want to go bigger with it?
I think to go bigger
is
to bring a light into this community. And it started, like, the heart of this is the students who are running this. And I think we can all get some seasonal depression with our school. And so to be able to be journalists and to go out into the world and look for the light is really a really hopeful experience.
And it's a totally aspirational thing to go and do.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thanks for coming in and showing me the magazine. It looks awesome, like I said. Like I don't know how many hours you must have poured into that, but it looks amazing.
It was a lot.
It was
like a
lot of work.
4-month project that spent a lot of time together. But honestly, it turned out amazing, and I'm really excited to see like what happens in the future.
And where it's going to end up going.
Yeah, and I really hope it's like as big as Portal and the NAV. That's the goal.
That's the goal?
Yeah.
That's the goal. Perfect. So we've got one more project left, and that is going to be from Chovy, and that is going to be a documentary on the Khmer genocide. The video, we'll be switching to that now.
Hi everyone, my name is Chovy Thatch. I am a VIU graduate. I came to VIU to do a diploma in social work, then switched to a Bachelor's of Arts with a major in English. Social work gave me the knowledge of truth and reconciliation. It taught me the values of engaging with communities and the sustainability of our mental health through learning and working with one another. In English, I learned how to negotiate with my history through reading, telling stories, and doing my version of comparative literature. I've grown interested in writing stories about my Cambodian diaspora. I am currently researching my community's history and our experiences with war trauma. I am back at VIU, taking the creative writing program to grow my storytelling skills and taking digital media classes to transform my writing into video format. My research is about community, specifically the diaspora community in British Columbia, and how it negotiates with intergenerational trauma and the largely untold story of the Khmer Rouge genocide. My Cambodian family values taught me the beauty of coming together as a community and the importance of social solidarity. Our unique story of the Khmer Krom community and the Site 2 refugee camp appears separate from the official history in Canada. I long for a Cambodian-Canadian accounts to be a larger part of the Canadian history archive. My parents, uncles, aunts, and siblings have survived through so much and are continuing to do so. We were all forced to adapt to our new lives in Canada, where we remain silent, resulting in mental health, disassociation, and an inability to address intergenerational trauma. By sharing our story, I hope to break the cycle of intergenerational trauma, give voice to the Canadian diasporic Cambodian community, and share our incredible journey of survival.
Such a powerful piece. And I have seen this film before today, and it was just as powerful then as it is now. But this time I have the pleasure of interviewing Chovi, who made the film. Welcome down to the studio. You are our last contestant tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I just need to ask, given the subject matter that this is literally the Khmer genocide, what was the hardest part of actually making the documentary?
I think the hardest part was trying to get everybody's voice in, and I think I really was trying to make sure that everybody in the community had their moment to share their story, because each one of them are so important, and I think that was the most challenging. And for now, what I have so far is a pretty good start, but I would say that trying to get everybody in and giving them enough space and time was probably the most challenging, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the hardest thing in anything, much less, the subject matter that's involved here. Going on that, is there any support structure outside of, say, VHA or like counseling? Mm-hmm. Is there any kind of support structure outside of that specifically for the generational trauma incited by this incident?
For the Cambodian people specifically?
Yeah.
Actually, having gone through social work, studying social work, I discovered that there hasn't been. And so I think this project, my passion project, is I'm hoping to, produce something like that. So, getting their story out there. And I think it's pretty therapeutic having, done the interview and watch, my brother and, my uncles go through, the process and how reflective it was. And it was very powerful, it was very healing, and I was very honored to witness that myself as well too. So it hasn't been. So I'm hoping that in the future that my project can produce something like that for our community.
So speaking on that, on what you want the project to do, are you going to be cleaning this project up and submitting it to a bunch of festivals? Because it's amazing. I know you've only been filmmaking for a short amount of time, but it's super, super powerful, and it's really rare to find something so powerful as this documentary here.
Thank you.
What's the plan going forward to get this out there, not just here at VIU, not just here in Nanaimo, but out in the community, Canada, North America, and everywhere but here? Like, what's the plan next?
The plan is going to be a big one for sure, and I appreciate that question so much because, you know, there are bigger plans in store. And film festival, you know, I'm manifesting it for sure, and if I can get the opportunity, for sure I will. I'm just starting. I'm in the beginning phases of it all, and it's, you know, the reception's been pretty good, and I'm really grateful and very honored that, you know, everybody's really enjoyed it and really, you know, took a liking to it. So
yeah, because going on that, there's not that much knowledge about the Khmer genocide, at least here in the West. Not as much as you might think that there is. Are you like? Do you want to like show people like kind of like the truth behind? You know, behind the screen that we've kind of been given. Like, do you want to cut right to the heart of, like the genocide and kind of get down to the really human aspect of it?
Absolutely, yes, that is definitely my plan, and I'm gonna try and get as many people on board. And you know, I did finish my most recent project with 3 of the people who's experienced it firsthand. And they would love their stories to be projected like in a bigger audience, and you know, I want to focus on them as well, and yeah, I'm willing to, you know, dig deeper, be more reflective, tell bigger stories, and I'm hoping that, you know, I can make it bigger than what I've presented today for sure.
And like drawing from your personal experiences, because I haven't addressed it yet, but this photo here is of you in like in one of the refugee camps. And I just really want to thank you for the movie that you produced, the documentary. It's really, really powerful, and I really hope that you take this somewhere, because it's amazing. I really want you to keep working on this. I know you don't think of yourself as a filmmaker, but the piece, it's awesome. I want you to keep working on it.
Thank you so much. I am so grateful.
No
that
worries.
You said
Thank
that.
you, Chavi.
Thank you so much.
So
thank you.
That's our show. I just want to thank, again, I'd like to thank all our volunteers and our amazing panel of guests. And I'd like to thank RogersTV for making it all happen. The 23-24 school year was filled with countless hours of hard work, culminating in all these projects. And I just want to wish everyone involved have a great summer.